It's now time for the Billy C. Show, part of the BillyCBoxing.com network.
And we're coming to you live from the Billy C. Studios in Lake George, New York. I'm Bill Calogero, and it's time for the Billy C. Show. Good morning, good day, good evening, whenever you're watching, whenever you're listening. I hope you're doing okay today. Today's show, she's being brought to you by my book, Tom Molyneux, From Bondage to Baddest Man on the Planet, is available right now where all good books are sold. Get yourself a copy right now while you're watching this show. Go to Amazon or go to Barnes & Noble or drop me an email, Billy, or you can do a couple of different emails, Billy at talkinboxing, TALKINBOXING.com, or Bill at BillyCBoxing.com. All right. Real anxious to get this show going. I'm going to talk about the Anthony Joshua, Francis Ngannou fight. We're going to talk about the rumored Manny Pacquiao Floyd Mayweather rematch and some other stuff. But first, I wanted to just touch base, get it out of the way. I wanted to touch base about the fight from last weekend, the return of Virgil Ortiz Jr. He improved to 20-0 with 20 knockouts when he scored a first-round stoppage over Frederick Lawson, who drops at 30 wins, 4 losses, 22 of his wins coming by knockout. Referee Tony Weeks stopped the fight. Everybody was all over him for stopping it way too early, 2 minutes and 43 seconds of the first round to be exact. Look, the referees are instructed to stop a fight sooner than later. It is to protect the fighters. So from that respect, you can't argue. You can't, because every single referee that I've ever spoken to will tell you the same thing. It's better to stop a fight too soon than stop a fight too late. But in this particular case, I'm not going to criticize the stoppage, because that would just, be critical of what I just said. But I will say this. The comments that Tony Weeks made after the fight about the abnormal brain scan and that there was an aneurysm and all that, that was bullshit. I mean, he shouldn't have done that. That undermined the commission, the doctors, the promoter, everybody. It was a little weird that he said that. So it'll be interesting to see what transpires from that. Okay, now. The news in boxing, at least in the heavyweight division, Anthony Joshua and Francis Ngannou is scheduled to fight in March. I believe March 8th is the projected fight date for this. It's a Friday, I think, March 8th. But apparently, there's going to be a full-blown press conference Monday about this fight. Look, Tyson Fury, arguably the best heavyweight out there, at least at times, stepped in the ring against Ngannou. Nobody gave Ngannou a chance, including myself, the odds makers, no one. Neither did Tyson Fury in his camp. He didn't train for this fight. The truth of the matter is, I give Ngannou all the credit in the world about being in the shape that he was in, training with Mike Tyson, all those things that we learned about after the fact. But the truth of the matter is he fought a Tyson Fury that took him very lightly. Now here's the thing: if you want to take a look at this fight and really analyze it, you have to say to yourself, okay, Ngannou, he's only going to get better if he stays in the heavyweight division for boxing. He's only going to get better should he continue to hone his boxing skills. All right. I think we saw that, he did enough to make it interesting against Tyson Fury. I still think Tyson Fury squeaked out the win. He dropped Tyson Fury. He's got unbelievable punching power, which is a big plus for him against Anthony Joshua. Anthony Joshua's chin is suspect. But here's the thing. I've always liked Anthony Joshua. His safety first and his subject chin, it might have turned me off a little bit. Hey, if we're watching or listening right now live, come on into the chat room on YouTube and give us your thoughts. Also, make sure you subscribe or subscribe to our podcast. Anyway, and I just want to give a shout out to everybody listening or watching the show after we aired it live, specifically on YouTube or podcast. My man Joel just popped into the chat room. Long time, Joel. Glad to have you with us. So anyway, my thoughts on the fight itself. First of all, it's going to be in the new fight capital of the world, Saudi Arabia, which is great. They put on a great show there, and apparently they're hemorrhaging money. So you know how boxing is; they follow the money, right? So that's where it's going to be. Now, Anthony Joshua has my man Oliver just popped in, another sad sack Jet fan like myself. But thank God it's over. JETS, right? Just end the season. But in any event, Anthony Joshua, he's going to have, here I am going to say he's going to have the height and reach advantage. But geez, so did Tyson Fury, right? I mean, Tyson Fury's bigger than Anthony Joshua. I just think that the cat's out of the bag, so to speak. I don't think that Anthony Joshua is going to take Ngannou lightly. And I think Anthony Joshua's boxing skill, specifically his jab and footwork, is going to make this a one-sided fight for Anthony Joshua. It's not going to be an exciting fight, but Anthony Joshua, I think, is going to win the fight unless Francis Ngannou catches him, then it's lights out for Anthony Joshua, which there's always that chance. That's the beauty of the heavyweight division, and that's the beauty of Francis Ngannou, to be honest with you, is his punching power. Now, if I'm Ngannou, I'm back in the gym right after Tyson Fury fight, and I'm trying to hone those skills. He worked with Mike Tyson, right? Well, that's the way he can beat Anthony Joshua. Get inside. He could, the same thing. Tyson Fury's got this big body. He uses his weight. He leans on fighters, and it eventually tires you out. Now, I'm not saying that Ngannou got tired because he looked like he had plenty of gas left in the tank. But Anthony Joshua doesn't have that mass, that body mass to hang on Ngannou. As a matter of fact, I think he would be nervous to get that close. I think we're going to see Anthony Joshua try to distance himself with his jab and outbox in a Klitschko-esque type of a performance, because I think that's his way of winning. As far as Ngannou's chance of winning this fight is to go balls to the wall and attack Anthony Joshua. He doesn't like to get hit. He has a tendency to go back, to lift his head back. And I think Ngannou, if he could incorporate a good body attack, could work the body a little bit on Anthony Joshua and then come upstairs and hope for landing a punch. He did seem to have that overhand right. So it's going to be an interesting fight. I'm looking forward to it. The odds are out. When the fight was announced, Anthony Joshua was a favorite. You had to lay $500 to win 100. Ngannou was plus 325. That was when it first came out. I did not get any updated lines. We are going to get the full press conference on this fight Monday. But everyone in the know is expecting another big card like we got a couple of weeks back. And one of the fighters that they're talking about being on the card looks like Deontay Wilder. And Deontay Wilder, I know that his team uh, is looking forward to that fight. They really want him on that card. And they've been talking about a couple of opponents. And the guy that, I was going to talk about Zili Zhang on this show when I was preparing to do the show, the topics and stuff last week. And, I kind of felt that he's become the odd man out with all the heavyweights that fought on the last card, the Day of Reckoning card. You know, it seemed like some of Zhang's options kind of went up in flames. Because I look at Zhang and there's a couple of options for him, in my opinion. Now, by the way, he's the WBO interim heavyweight champion. And I think the best fight for boxing would be him against Joseph Parker. But Parker's obviously, has better money fight options, like a potential fight against Anthony Joshua, which we know now would have to wait till after the Ngannou fight. Or wait for the winner of the Tyson Fury Usyk fight, which he's, I believe, the mandatory for one of those fighters, one of the titles, I should say. So he's got that. I also like the fact that this fight could be held in China for a huge money fight, but I doubt that we're going to see any big fights outside of Saudi Arabia for a little bit. I think Daniel Dubois, I think Andy Ruiz Jr., I think KBL, I think they're all great fighters. And I think they would all make a good fight with Zhang. However, I think the fight that you're going to see next will be Deontay Wilder against Zili Zhang. And the truth of the matter is, with that fight, Zhang is a perfect opponent for Deontay Wilder. Look, you look at this guy's record, and yes, he's 26 wins, 21 coming by knockout. He's only got one loss in which he wasn't stopped. Philippe Hergovic beat him in 2022, August of 2022, via a 12-round decision. He's 40 years old, which, if we were having this conversation years ago, we'd be saying, 40 years old, he's too old. But I mean, as we're going to move on in the show and I get to Peter Beef's fight with Smith, you'll see those ages there. But Zhang is a southpaw. He's a big dude, 6'6". He's a big guy. He's slow as molasses. He's going to stand right in front of Deontay Wilder should this fight happen, and Deontay's going to get his mojo back and stop this guy. When you look at him, he's got a decent reach, of course, but the computer ranks him at number 7. He's not ranked in any of the major sanctioning bodies because he's the interim WBO world champ. But the truth of the matter is his best wins were 2 back-to-back KO wins over Joe Joyce in April and September of this past year. He really has no other big wins. I mean, you could make a case maybe of his 2020 fight, 4th round stoppage over Devin Vargas, who was 22-6 at the time. Look for this fight. Look for Zhang to be on this card, fighting Deontay Wilder. I think that's what you're going to see, and I like it. I just got a comment before I move on in the chat room. Errol HL says Ngannou can also knock down Joshua, but Joshua does seem to have a better punch resistance than Fury based on the number of fights they've been rocked and dropped. I don't know, man. That's a tough one. I think if Ngannou, I think if he drops Anthony Joshua, it's going to be lights out. I think that Tyson Fury has shown us, not only in that fight, but also, of course, with the Deontay Wilder fight, that he does get up. I mean, that first fight, I thought that, Tyson Fury was he looked dead. I'm surprised they didn't just wave that one off, and he got up from that. I think that Anthony Joshua, like I said early, is going to outbox Ngannou. As a matter of fact, I think he's going to put on a boxing lesson for Ngannou, and that's not slighting Tyson Fury. I just think that Tyson Fury is more of a defensive fighter in terms of his talent. I think just he excels in defense and being able to use his weight and size advantage to tire his opponents out, and then since he's been with Sugar. He has developed some pop with all that size. So, but Anthony Joshua used to be a really good finisher. Should he get Ngannou in trouble, I would look to see him finish him. But like I said, I'm expecting a Klitschko type performance from Anthony Joshua. I think he's going to play it safe. I think he's going to outbox him and win a decision that most people are going to call boring. My man Joel says, I think AJ hasn't been the same since the Ruiz fight. I expect Ngannou stops AJ within 6. It wouldn't shock me if Ngannou knocks out Anthony Joshua, but I don't see it happening only because of Joshua's skill. And Joel, you're 100% correct. He's not the same fighter because he's learned to not care about. And let's face it, he admittedly was in probably the worst shape of his career when he fought Ruiz in the first fight, and comes back in the second fight and fought a technically sound fight against Ruiz, who Ruiz was in the worst shape of his life for that fight. So, in this sport of professional boxing, anybody that takes an opponent lightly is foolish, because on any given night, look, a friend of mine and a former world heavyweight champion, and who's going to be on this show, we're going to do a spotlight on him in the very near future. My man Ray Mercer. Look, he told me, and I'm going to ask him. He'll tell us on. He told us on air, but he's also told me off air, and I'm sure he'll tell you again. The only fight that he regrets in his whole career was the Klitschko fight. And what he'll also tell you is that he didn't take it serious and he didn't train hard. And if he could do it all over again, he would have had the right mindset. So, they all do it for some reason. And like the old saying, it's hard to train as diligently as you used to when you were hungry. And then once you start sleeping on silk sheets and, have a maid and butler hanging around and serving you, it's a little hard to get up and do the work. But we'll see. The card sounds like it's going to be good. We're going to know Monday, so I'll be able to talk about it next week. But that's that. Anthony Joshua against Francis Ngannou in March 8th. Next big fight in Saudi Arabia. So stay tuned. We'll talk about it next week. Another fight that's been in the news as potentially happening. Floyd Mayweather against Manny Pacquiao, the rematch. Now, there's a lot of rumors about it. Nothing's been announced. I just want to go out there and say this. It's sad that both of these guys, considering the gazillions of dollars that they made, are still doing it. As far as Floyd Mayweather is concerned, Floyd Mayweather will continue to do this because he's so stupid that he doesn't pay his taxes, right? So he's fighting these fights, these exhibitions, just to pay some of the back taxes. The same thing is going to happen to him. He's going to end up with no money because he likes to do stupid stuff with the money. As far as the fight itself, they're talking about an exhibition. If it's labeled an exhibition, nobody's going to win. All right. You got the Pacquiao fans saying that he won the fight, which, come on. Floyd Mayweather, he's just a a fairy tale guy. He's a fairy, and he's got a tail. No, he's a guy that talks all kinds of shit. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that, and he runs and runs and runs. He's a self-proclaimed the best ever. He's not. Okay, he's the best in his era. You can give him that. But he's not the best era ever. There's many fighters that got to 50-0 before they lost a fight, but they continued to fight over 100 fights in their career. Floyd ended it at 50 and just because he retired, claims he's the best. Would I pay for this fight? I wouldn't. Because I don't believe that it would be real. And when I say that, if they both announce that it's going to be a real fight, not a exhibition, and they both get cleared to fight medically, then I could see the fight being somewhat interesting. And I would lean towards Manny Pacquiao. Look, if Manny Pacquiao did not injure his shoulder, now you've never heard me make that excuse like Manny did and his fans did and everything else. He should have never stepped in that ring if he wasn't 100%, because damn well Floyd wouldn't have. Okay, so he can't use that as an excuse. However, I will say that if they do fight, and if it is a real fight, and they are both healthy as they can be in their 40s, I would say Manny Pacquiao. I would say Manny Pacquiao will win the fight. He's got, Floyd's got his defense. Manny Pacquiao's got his hand speed. Both of them obviously slowing down with age. I just think Pacquiao would have. I think if they both fought in their prime 5 years earlier than they did, Manny Pacquiao would have knocked him out. I mean, I really. But we'll see what happens with that. There's already lines in Vegas on it. Mayweather's the favorite. You're laying $130 for 100. Manny Pacquiao's plus 100. That's fairly close with today's boxing lines, which are crazy. I guess they opened at 140 minus 140 and Pacquiao at plus 110. So apparently there's some early money going on Manny Pacquiao. But we'll see what happens. I agree with my man Oliver. He's saying these fights hurt his legacy, just makes us roll his eyes at Mayweather. Listen, a lot of people are realizing that Mayweather was a fraud in a way. I don't think, and don't get me wrong, talented fighter. And my argument about Floyd is that I don't think we ever saw the best Floyd because he never let us. And when I say he never let us is he never challenged himself. He really didn't. Once he became, Money Mayweather, it was all cherry pick, calculated risks. That's smart, and it was good for his bank account. But this is why I blame, the state of boxing today on Floyd Mayweather. And speaking of Floyd Mayweather, this is a great example right here. I don't know if you caught this, but Ryan Garcia wanted to fight Devin Haney. Devin Haney put on a great performance in his last fight and really shot up. I mean, I finally have thought what I should have been thinking of Devin Haney a long time ago, that, he's a guy that brings it. He's not afraid to fight the talented fighters out there. He wants to challenge himself, and he comes to fight. He's in shape, all those things. And Ryan Garcia saw that he was a slick fighter, and wanted to make that fight, which I respect Ryan Garcia. But then apparently the rumor has it that he took a jog in Vegas with none other than Floyd Mayweather. And then after the jog, he comes back and says, no, we're not going to fight Haney. We want to fight Raleigh instead. And, Oscar De La Hoya freaked out, supported Garcia, saying, we'll make any fight for him and make it a great event. But he says, De La Hoya said, and I quote, pre-run with, he posted this on social media. He writes, pre-run with Floyd equals Ryan wants Haney. That's what he was saying before the run. Post-run with Floyd, Ryan wants Raleigh. And this is why I feel he's destroyed the sport of boxing. He's ruined every fighter he's been involved with. Adrian Broner is a great example. Even Errol Spence, both of them, you know, he because of his success, people want to copy what he did. And whether or not Ryan Garcia does or not, it's a terrible approach for the sport. It's a smart approach for the fighter if you can make the money and not, of course, have less risk. But if you care anything about the sport, that's not the way it should be. Now, going back to the comment about Tony Weeks, this is where good officiating and good medical doctors ringside and commission requirements with meds and all of this. This is where I support them being strict. New York, Nevada, New Jersey, all very strict commissions. I know Mohegan Sun, the tribal commission there, and even Turning Stone, they're all very strict as well. If you have a strict commission that requires proper medicals and all of these things, then you have the officiating crews that will look out for the fighter's safety and stop a fight when they need to. That's fine. That's what the fighter needs to depend on, not the fighter depending upon himself of picking a guy that isn't going to be a challenging fight, because that doesn't help the sport of boxing. And that's what Floyd has done, and that's what he's selling to other fighters. You know, um, and Jason is asking me, shaking his head, how is Broner's downfall Floyd's fault? Well, look, the truth of the matter is he started hanging around with Floyd. He was under Floyd's tutelage. It was the same thing with Errol Spence. They start believing their own press clippings. Floyd never did the stuff that these guys did. Floyd, look, I give credit to Floyd. I'll tell you one thing about Floyd. Floyd was always in good shape. You never saw Floyd hanging out, drinking and getting all drunk and doing drugs and all these other things that some of these other fighters fall prey to. But Floyd also has the ego where he never wants one of his protege fighters to ever be as good as him, so he would never do it. Look what happened with Tank Davis. Same thing, and you can compare. You can also, excuse me, look at the PBC fighters, and they're all the same. As a matter of fact, what did I see? Charlo gets this happened before the new year, but Jermell Charlo arrested, charged with assault. I mean, these guys, they just can't keep it clean. Jason saying that's Broner's problem. Okay, well, then you do what you got to do, Jason. I'm just telling you, my opinion. That's your opinion. I respect it. My opinion is that Floyd has ruined the sport of boxing because of his safety first approach. And the self-proclaiming that he's the best ever is a joke. Okay, I'm a boxing historian. I have went and there's so many fighters that we can name that are better than Floyd Mayweather. And you can't just look at the record. See, that's the problem with young fighters today and young fans today. They look at the record and they say, "Oh, well, he's undefeated. He must be good." No, look at the opponents. I'd rather take a fighter that has fought all these tough fights and not come out on top and I have that guy, excuse me, on my team versus a fighter that's never been challenged. I think a great example was who's that welterweight? Andre Berto. Okay, Andre Berto was coddled and guided so well, and then all of a sudden he wins the title. Now he's a champ, and he loses for the first time. And what do they say? They start saying, "Well, he's still developing." Wait a minute, what do you mean he's still developing? Developing a fighter should be taking place before they win a title. That's because titles are easier to get today. It's easy to get a title. It's hard to hold on to one. There was a conversation going on earlier today on social media about Floyd Mayweather and Harry Greb, and they laughed. I laughed because Floyd Mayweather throughout his whole career ends his career 50-0, right? Harry Greb in 1 year, in less than 2 years, was 50-0. right? And then the question was, could Harry Greb have beaten Floyd Mayweather? And my answer is, of course he could have. Of course he could have. You know, I mean, no question. And even the fighters in the 80s, the Fab Four, Roberto Duran, Tommy Hearns, Marvin Hagler, and yes, even Sugar Ray Leonard, all of them would have beaten Floyd. Every single one of them. Here's the problem. They all fought each other. Floyd never would have fought these guys. He would have ran and ducked and hid, unless Floyd goes back in time and is actually Floyd Sr., because Floyd Sr. fought a lot of talented fighters. And I've always said that if Floyd Sr. Fought Floyd Jr., both in their prime, I would lean towards Sr., assuming that he had the same defense as Jr. He had a better punch, and he had that more of a killer attack style. But anyway, we'll see what happens with that. I personally think that Floyd doesn't have to come back to fight Pacquiao. I don't think he feels that he has to either. I just think, Jason, I can, he's saying Hagler's too big, bro. Okay, everybody always said that about Floyd. Oh, he's too small. He's too small. He's too small. Nah, he's not. He wasn't. And you know what? If you think Floyd is that great, more power to you. I respect you for it. I think he ruined the sport personally. I think I give him credit for taking the sport, taking his conditioning seriously. I give him credit for his financial gain. And from that respect, for cherry picking his opponents, I give him credit for that. But as a historian and a boxing purist, it's what I dislike the most about him. He did do some great things for other people, like paying off his daughter. No. But anyway, it was pretty funny just to close the book here on Floyd. It's pretty funny. Oscar De La Hoya said, "Hey Floyd, if you want to give Ryan the secret to defense in the ring, that's great. Other than that, if you are still a promoter, like it says, F off." He's telling him, stay away. And I said to myself, ooh, wait, ooh, wow, maybe Oscar De La Hoya and Mayweather rematch, huh? You know, let's see. Oh, so my man Jason, he's telling me Hagler's too big, bro. Hagler's too big, bro. But then he says Leonard Mayweather is more realistic. I guess Jason forgot that Leonard came back and fought Marvin Hagler. Tommy Hearns was a welterweight who ended up fighting at middleweight, and actually he went all the way up to light heavyweight. As they age, Roberto Duran was by far one of the greatest lightweights ever. People forget how great he was as a lightweight. Okay, most people remember Roberto Duran during the Sugar Ray Leonard era when he moved up in weight and was fighting welterweight Sugar Ray Leonard, and he went on to fight middleweight and everything else. So please, let's not use that as an argument. Okay, big fight this weekend is taking place with Artur Beterbiev against Callum Smith. We got some other fights later in the month, and then of course in February, Tyson Fury against Usyk. Let me give you my thoughts on the fight this weekend. And by the way, it looks like we're going to do a post-fight show on that. So it is what it is. Artur Beterbiev, he's 19-0. All of his wins coming by knockout. He's 38 years old, 5 years older than Callum Smith. He's ranked as the number 2 world light heavyweight by the computer, which I found kind of amazing. Bivol is ranked number 1, despite Artur having the WBC, IBF, and WBO titles. The computer somehow ranks Bivol in front of him, which I found interesting. Anyway, 5'11" and a half. Like I said, he's given up 3.5 inches, 73-inch reach, given up 5. He had some pretty big wins of late. Anthony Yard, Joe Smith Jr., Marcus Brown, all good wins for him. He's a type of fighter that is very fun to watch. It's going to be interesting to see him in the ring with Callum Smith. Now, you take a look at Callum Smith. Now, I just mentioned Peter Beav is 38 years old. Callum Smith's 33. He's 6'3". He's got a 3.5-inch height advantage. He's got a 78-inch reach. That's a 5-inch reach advantage. He's got a record of 29 wins, 1 loss, 21 of his wins coming by knockout. His only loss was his 12-round decision loss to Canelo Alvarez back in 2020. He's ranked, he's got no computer ranking because he's been out of the ring for more than a year, but he's ranked number 1 by the WBC, number 12 by the IBF, number 2 by the WBO, and he's not rated by the WBA. After his loss to Canelo, which was super middleweight, he moved up to light heavyweight. He's got 2 knockout wins since then. He stopped Gilbert Castillo Rivera in the second round in September of last year. September of 21. And he stopped Matthew Borderleek in the 4th round on August 20th in 22. That was his last fight. That's why he's been out of contention. As far as out of the ranking, I should say. As far as his record, his win against John Ryder was impressive. His win against Georgie Groves was impressive. Eric Sokolin was impressive. Rocky Fielding way back in 2015 was impressive. This guy, he's got the reach. He's got a jab. He can box. He's got a chance. But my official prediction is I think Peter Beav is going to stop him like he does with everybody else. And Callum Smith is going to make a decent payday. And that'll be that. Hopefully, should this turn out like this, and no disrespect to Callum Smith, but should he lose this fight, it should set up a showdown between Dmitry Bivol and Peter Beav. Bivol has stated that he wants this fight, and we'll see what happens with it. And he said that if he wins that fight, Bivol, there's nothing left for him to prove in the sport. And just looking ahead, which I really don't want to, because anything can happen. And Callum Smith has the boxing ability and the brains to just frustrate Peter Beav during the whole fight and outbox him. I just think that he's going to have a hard time doing that. But should the fight go the way I'm predicting, a knockout loss for Smith, and Bivol and Peter Beav get it on, as talented as Bivol is, I think Peter Beav is a special fighter. And we were looking at, and I say that because he's a beast, and he's 38 years old. We're talking about boxing history, right? And you go back in the sport, and you start talking about ages of fighters. 38 was way over the hill. I mean, way over the hill. I mean, it's not as uncommon today. I mean, Ngannou is 38, I believe. Zhang is 40. Deontay Wilder, I think, is 38. So I mean, a lot of these guys are all in their late 30s and beyond, and they're still fighting. You got to contribute today's technology with nutrition and training techniques. Have to add for that. I agree with Jason on his prediction. He's predicting a Beav knockout in 6 rounds. I think that's about right. I think it's going to be probably around 8, but we'll see. It's a good fight, and make sure if you're up. Well, the question is, if I'm up after a couple of scotches, I will do a post-fight show. If not, I'll be doing it at the crack of dawn. So, couple things I just want to close with here. I had a couple of emails, and if you have an email, you have a comment, drop me an email and I'll read it on air and comment for you live. You can send it to either one of the email addresses, bill@billycboxing.com or billy@talkinboxing.com, TALKINBOXING.com. My man Rick sent me an email, and a couple of these were from a couple of weeks ago. I just haven't had a chance to read them. He sent me an email about Daniel Dubois. He says, "Hey, Billy C, I still want to know what you think of Daniel Dubois and where he stands in the heavyweight division. I've become a fan of his ever since the Usyk fight and feel like he finally put it all together with his KO over Miller. I think he was robbed of the title against Usyk, very similar to your boy Tom Molyneux, and I think he would be a legit problem for anyone in the heavyweight division. Curious to know what you think of him." I like him. I thought that, his career was rushed along a little bit. He's got the knockout power. I think that his performance against Miller showed me and a lot of other people a lot about him. I think he's right up there in the mix. I think I would love to see him take on one of those other fighters I was talking about before. Um, maybe even an Andy Ruiz Jr. or a Hrgovic, those guys, any of the other fighters that were on that card. How about him and Joseph Parker? You see, the problem is we can come up with some great fights, right? But because of all the sanctioning bodies and all the titles, these guys aren't going to fight somebody that might be a good fight for the sport. It might be an entertaining fight for us, the fans, but they're looking at the title and the money. So it'll be interesting to see. As far as Daniel Dubois is concerned, he wants to fight the big names. He says it himself, and he knows that fighting the big names will bring some bigger money. I think he's a guy to watch. He's young. That's also a big thing about him. And I think that if he keeps improving, that's going to be a good thing. So I'm with you, Rick. I like him. I've liked him since he came out. Like I said, I thought they rushed him along a little bit, and what I mean by that is they hand fed him some cupcakes. I mean, he didn't get to the point where he's a diabetic yet with all the sugar, but he did get some cupcakes, and I think that even the Usyk fight, although he did give Usyk some trouble, he wasn't ready for a guy like Usyk, and he still isn't. He still isn't. Usyk's a unique fighter. He's mentally strong, which is the number one thing I think that not only fighters need to have, but we as humans, society, we've become mentally weak, and you can see it, with a lot of younger people, and then with the athletes and all this stuff. You got to have the strong mental approach, and you got to be strong mentally in addition to physical. And I think that's what makes Usyk so good. And I think Daniel Dubois was just in that fight too soon, but it will be interesting to see where he goes from here. I'm, for one, look forward to that. I got another email here from Jordan, and this was about the Day of Reckoning fight. He says, "Hey, Billy, I hope all is well. And I hope you and your family had a great festive season. Thank you very much. And same to you. We did." He says, "I'm glad to see that you're back on. I've been watching your first few shows back when I can from the UK. So prior to that, I was recapping your old shows." Hey, listen, man, we're in our 21st year. So if you ever have the time, you should go back and check out some of the shows. There's some really good, this especially when we were doing the morning show. 21 years worth of content. It's all over the place out there. A lot of it I don't have anymore, and we had a great run. So check it out. It was good. He says, I wrote the following few questions before I knew you were doing a post-fight show for the Day of Reckoning. And could you please respond? So he says to me here, the first one: how far do you think Hrgovic can actually go He is likely to fight AJ now after Tyson Usyk for the IBF title. Too much for AJ, I think. A competitive boxer with power, and in the Zhang fight showed his heart too. What's your thoughts? Um, well, first of all, we know now, since you've written this, Jordan, that AJ's fighting Ngannou. I don't think the way I'm reading this here is you think that he's too much for AJ. I don't think he's too much for AJ. I like him, and I think that he's a guy that we got to see more of. But I'm not so sure he's too much for AJ. But we'll see how AJ does against uh, Nagano. I do like I like Hergovic. I think he can go far enough for a legitimate shot at the title. I'd like to see him fight Zhang or Ruiz next. Um, that was my comment, but as we see, it looks like Zhang is going to be fighting Deontay Wilder. Andy Ruiz keeps being the guy's. His name is the one that people keep leaving out, and I don't understand why. I mean, somebody should do it. My man Jay Perez says he thinks AJ knocks Ngannou out. I think if you would have tuned in a little earlier when I first came on, my prediction in that fight, I think AJ can knock anybody out, but I don't think that that's going to be the fight plan against Ngannou. I think AJ will fight cautiously in a Klitschko-esque type performance and win a fight that everybody's going to say was boring. Second question from Jordan. He says, is Frank Sanchez a genuine threat to the champions? I was impressed by his slow, methodical approach and stepped on the gas only when he saw the opportunity. And when he did, it was a good night. It was when he did it, it was good night. Granted, against a limited opponent, but you can only beat who's in front of you. I saw a lot of flaws in him, and I really like Frank Sanchez. Uh, he's got a lack of footwork. He no head movement, which has become rarity today in the sport of boxing. I mean, it was such a staple in boxing in yesteryear. It was one of the first things trainers taught you was the jab and head movement, and it just seems that we got head hunters now and no head movement between the rah-rah men in the corner and the head hunters. I mean, we wonder why, and I can't blame that on Floyd, Jason. Can't blame that on Floyd. But anyway, I do like him, and I want to see more of Sanchez. Um, he says, I was impressed with Dubois' performance. He showed good movement throughout through sensible combinations, and at times he had to show he has a chin. I'm not sure what Dubois is to expect next time out. I think if he continues as he did against Miller, expect him to be there for the big fights. He says, I knew Makhmedov would get exposed at some point. Big, tough man who turns out has heart too, but has large gaps that there were to get capitalized on by a competent boxer. Would like to see KBL against Sanchez, Dubois against Parker. Both of those would be good fights. I agree. I love KBL. He came into that fight. I love the way he fought. I'd like to see him against Sanchez. Dubois against Hergovic. That's a great fight too. But like I said, I just think that Andy Ruiz is a guy that people are leaving out. But we got my man from Don King, who everybody who's ever watched this show knows I'm a fan of Don King. I think he brought a lot to this sport. Everybody always blames him for everything. He's still one of the best interviews I ever did. They think AJ buckles under a big punch. Should Ngannou catch him? Of course, he'll buckle under a big punch from Ngannou. Ngannou's got crazy power, but I think AJ is going to be able to outbox him. I think he's going to use his arm reach and his footwork, and he's going to dance around the ring, and he's going to make a boring fight and get the W. But that's what makes the fight interesting. Ngannou can knock him out. So anyway, The top guys need to fight each other. I think that, you know, that's how you earn it. And unfortunately, we've left. Thanks for the email, Jordan. Unfortunately, we've left that train of thought, and now, fight fans look at you get this guy. All of a sudden, you never heard of him, and he's 25 wins and no losses, and they say, "Oh, he's good," and they don't look at any of the fights. Um, Jay Prez says KBL fought really well. It's rare to see a heavyweight who goes to the body constantly. Listen, the body is the key to any weight class, whether it's heavyweight or flyweight. You got to work the body. It's proven. It slows fighters down. Look, the two most, aside from activity, the two most things that, or actually, I'm going to say three, that has been lost in the sport of boxing from when it was great to what it is today is number one, the fighters really don't fight the challenging fights as much as they used to. Nobody works the body and has head movement like they used to. And we don't have the teachers in the sport like we used to. We have rah-rah men. We have part-time trainers. That back in the day, boxing was a trade. Okay. Boxing was a trade, like a carpenter or a plumber, that's tradesmen. Well, a boxer was a trade. Okay. There was so many fighters, so many fights, and it was so popular. Okay. So what would happen is a kid would walk into a gym and, you know, uh, want to try it, and maybe they wouldn't let him in the ring. All the stories I read, Stillman's gym, and stuff. Kid would walk in, I want to fight, and they'd be like, you can't fight, you're too young. Here, sweep up this, clean up that, do this, and the kid would be hanging around the gym, and then finally somebody takes him under their wing and they train him, and he becomes an amateur fighter. And then he goes on and fights amateur fights and learns the sport, and then turns pro, and then fights as a pro and accomplishes whatever his talent can get him. Whether he becomes a journeyman fighter or a contender or even a world champion, when his days are over, it's not like he, rides off into the sunset. He's still back at the gym. Guess what? He becomes a trainer, or he becomes a manager, or he becomes a promoter. And you got a boxing guy in the sport of boxing. That's what's missing today. Today, boxing, all it takes is a checkbook. If you got money in a checking account, you could be a promoter, you could be a manager, you could be anything. You know what it takes to be a corner man? You think these guys that are so-called trainers and the guys that are in the corner, you think they show some kind of training or some type of certificate to show that they know what they're doing? No, all they got to do is pay the 25 or $50 fee to get the license in whatever commission they're fighting for, and poof, they're a trainer, they're a corner man, they're a this. That's the way it is. It sucks. It's not right. Boxing should have boxing people involved. That's when you look at any other sport, professional football, professional baseball, basketball, hockey, whatever. Football's got football people running football. Baseball's got baseball people running baseball. These former baseball players, they're ones that become scouts. Former football players, they become scouts. They know what they're looking for. It's all the same thing. The only people that sometimes don't have that background are the owners, but there's a lot of owners that are too. So it is what it is. Listen, I can go on and on about that. Yeah, and my man John from Don King is saying, corner man, $50 in Tennessee, 3-minute application. Yeah, that's it. There's your corner man. Poof. You're the head trainer. You're the main corner guy, and you don't know a left hook from a fish hook. But guess what? You had $50 in your pocket, and you just got a license. And by the way, the thing that John's leaving out here is that not only are you a licensed in that state, it's good for a year. It's good for a year, so you got a license, and then you show that to another commission. Oh yeah, no problem. Here, pay this. So it's pretty funny. But anyway, thanks for joining me. I know we covered a bunch of little stuff today, but listen, I plan on doing a post-fight show either right after the fight or very, very early in the morning after the Bitterbeeve and Smith fight. So make sure you tune in for that. You got any comments, questions, concerns? Drop me an email. I'll talk about it on the show. Billy at talkinboxing, TalkinBoxing.com, or Bill at BillyCBoxing.com. Thanks for joining us. I look forward to the next time. If you don't tune in for the post-fight show this weekend, make sure you tune in, same bat time, same bat channel right here. And don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel and download our podcast. Until then, I'll see you next time. Ciao, baby.